push a mind to a limit where it needs to feed. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Stroke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it. I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it.
Hello and welcome to My Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick. Let's get the show started. I hope everyone had a great day today, a great weekend. The world is going a little wild. It's okay. It's only going to get crazier. I told you between the first and the third, it's going to get a hell of a lot more crazier. But we're here, and thank God we're alive. You know, just sit back, relax, get your favorite drink, favorite snack, and let's get right to it because we've got a lot to watch. Let's not hesitate. Let's get right to Jason A.
This fella.
Hey, what's up, Albie? What's up, Chloe? How you guys doing tonight? It's gonna get cold here tonight. It's gonna be like 10 degrees tonight, I believe. Be a cold night. Actually snowed tonight. Today it snowed about 2 inches. It wasn't too bad. But it's gonna be 10 degrees in the morning. Doing good. You're covering this war, this whatever you want to call it.
This video shows people fleeing for their lives when a missile hit the Qatari capital, Doha.
Oh my God.
This is crazy.
Want to just show you some footage we got out of Tehran.
Yeah,
With a statue takes me back to the old.
Your medicine. Wow.
So we're looking just off in the distance there, and you can see the air defense interceptors going into the area and those bright flashes of orange.
Wow.
And you can also hear the loud booms. This is what we've been hearing in Doha all day today. And at the same time, you can also hear those
Iran,
sirens.
this is what they're doing. They're
tense time here
their
across
neighbors.
the region and here in Qatar.
The Ayatollah is not around anymore.
In those 14 hours,
sure
they've been hitting things like the parliament, military bases, the nuclear installations, courtrooms, the atomic center as well, and even the home in the compound of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And as you say, there have been reports now confirmed by Donald Trump that he has been killed in those, as had a suite of leaders in that regime. We know the defense minister is gone, the head of the army, the head of the RCG, the Republican Guard. This has been extraordinary clean out. Apparently, Israeli media saying about 30 senior leaders in various military factions across the country have been assassinated by air. These are decapitation strikes. We knew this was going to happen when this began. We didn't expect them to be able to take down Ayatollah Khamenei as well. Now, it's had severe impacts, obviously, across the region as well as Iran hits back, not just at its traditional target here in Israel and Tel Aviv especially, but across the region. This fury that they're experiencing right now, they're hitting out at everything and anything they can. 6 countries so far have been hit by their rockets, by their ballistic missiles, and by their infamous, notorious Shahada drones. And they're doing extraordinary damage, not just to U.S. Army and military bases, but to civilian infrastructure across this region. The entire place now has been caught up in this Middle East war.
These are some of the same forces who attacked civilians back in January when they came onto the streets to protest first against the economy and then against everything else they hate about this regime, from corruption to oppression. Thousands were killed. Those who marched then and survived will be exhilarated tonight by the news, but also afraid. They heard President Trump urging them to take over their government, but how? They have no guns and no organization. And they are up against millions of regime supporters who will fight for the regime's survival, backed by well-armed security forces. This is a pivotal moment.
And just under that, that's Germany, where exiled Iranians were dancing and celebrating and waving Iranian flags. I've translated some of what was said there.
Where's NATO? Where's NATO?
I am happy. No one wants war. The U.S. and Israel have their interests, but there is no other way for the Iranian people to ever experience freedom. This can only be achieved through external intervention, and I am happy about that people will simply gain a basic freedom like all of us. Iranians are happy that they finally received help from the outside, from the United States and Israel. We hope for a good ending.
I think we're at the dawn of a new Middle East. The president has correctly calculated that the risk associated with removing a regime that's threatened the United States, our partners and allies for the last 47 years, can in fact be done. And in fact, it looks like it has been done. And I don't think we're going to war because I don't think Iran is capable of waging it. I think the next steps are going to be critical, but I think it's important to remember that we're at the dawn of a new Middle East. It is now possible for us to foresee a change in leadership that will allow a regime that doesn't threaten the United States and its neighbors, and also allows the president to achieve the most important thing for the United States: stability of global energy markets and stability of global trade.
The largest Iranian populations outside of the Middle East. You see the gathering there behind her. Julia, how is the Iranian community responding?
Well, this gathering has only grown, Jessica, over the past few hours, since we've gotten here. It has amassed a large number of people, and the celebration is striking. We got here just moments after initial reports, initial rumors of the death of Ayatollah Khamenei had just started to trickle from Iran to this diaspora community, and people were jumping in excitement, hugging each other, crying, saying that basically they've been waiting 47 years for this very day, Jessica. It is the reason so many of them have come out here today. I want you to hear from one of them specifically, his thoughts right after learning that the supreme leader of Iran was dead.
When is the last time you saw people in Israel and Iran dancing on the streets in excitement? And when is the last time you've ever heard of a country coming out and dancing because they're excited that foreign powers are attacking them?
Now, the name of Reza Pahlavi has been at the tip of people's tongues here, Jessica. So these are very much people who are pro-Shah. They want to see a leadership emerge from Reza Pahlavi. They're calling for him to take over the reins. And their hope, they've told me, is that he would then lead a temporary government and hold elections in Iran, hold a referendum in Iran so that the people could decide what would come next for their nation.
Yeah, and so many Iranian people hoping for a regime change and that they can take back their government. A lot of questions about how that will happen, if it can happen. Julia Vargas Jones, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Rita, let's talk about the timing here. Why is this happening now? What has sort of led us to this point? Because we've seen the US build up their military might in the region over the last month.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching Donald Trump react to that. And he is the leader of this operation, make no mistake. And the cheer squad from Israel is, and here we go, the alarms are starting to sound off now. The cheer squad from Israel is loud and proud. They want to get rid of this regime, and they want to see the Ayatollah Khamenei rolled. So they've been supporting Trump. But Trump had made some major statements about supporting the protesters. Remember that back in January, thousands and thousands of them had come out on the streets in Tehran wanting an end to this regime. And there'd been an effective massacre, guys. Thousands of them killed. The estimates go from something like 6,000 to Trump reckons 33,000 people literally in the streets, machine gunned down by the secret police and by the paramilitary police, the ICRG, who basically just killed their own citizens to suppress that opposition. Trump said, nope, I'm coming in to help. Everyone's been waiting for that to happen. Well, today, that help became very, very real. We've got to actually make a move here, guys. We might wrap it up there.
Yep. Okay.
While Obama was paving the way for them to have nuclear weapons, Donald Trump loves this country. He knows right from wrong. And we've had a real psyop going on in this country for 10 years against this man, where they try and pretend he's the authoritarian. He's the dictator. No, they are. They talk about the War Powers Act of 1973. Anybody who is a serious constitutional lawyer knows that act is unconstitutional. I see all these lawyers writing these pieces like they're smart. They're dumb. And every administration, Republican and Democrat, has questioned it. But they haven't brought it to the Supreme Court because neither the Congress or the president wants a resolution. When you have Schumer, who's basically sliding and walking and weaving, all of a sudden he's excited because he can cripple our armed forces in the middle of a war that they're winning. That's what Schumer's doing. Schumer, who supported the Obama nuclear plan, and they would have nuclear weapons today. That's Schumer. Then I see these other people say, Trump hasn't made the case.
I don't know why they allowed the Democrats in Washington.
He made the case in 8 minutes.
They should kick him out of Washington.
But why do we need anybody to make the case? Government. Do you have eyes? Do you have ears? Are you an American citizen? Do you know what this regime's been doing? Do you know what it's done to our soldiers? Do you know what it's done to our citizens? Do you know we have people without limbs, without faces, without eyes as a result of that regime? What do you mean we haven't made the case? Are you really that stupid? And I think they are. But that party hates this country. I love when they wave around the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They use it to attack it. They believe that illegal aliens are citizens. They believe that terrorists should be given the benefit of the doubt. Listen, if they had their way, Donald Trump would have sent Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and others to go to Congress and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to attack them at 3 a.m. We're going to use these kinds of forces. We're going to work with the Israelis. This is what we're going to do. Now tell the other 530 members of Congress what we're going to do. Wow, nobody would leak that. Would they, Bernie Sanders and AOC and Tlaib? Of course not. Let me tell you what the founders of this country believed. They changed the word from making war in the first draft of the Constitution to declaring war. They specifically took that out because they don't want the Chuck Schumers of the world making decisions. The only person in Washington, D.C. who's elected by all the people, other than the vice president, is the president of the United States. Chuck Schumer's elected from New York. Bernie Sanders is elected from Vermont. They wanted the commander-in-chief to be elected by the entirety of the nation. And they're even talking about impeaching him if they take the House of Representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an enemy within, and it is the Democrat Party.
It is. And I think they should be censored and thrown out of freaking government. Like, what good are they? What good are they? They don't even act like Americans. They act like terrorists. Like, that's what the demon rats are. The demon rats are officially turned into the opposition. They turned into the terrorist groups. And that's who they bow and serve. They don't serve the American people. We just witnessed it in the fucking State of the Union where all the Democrats were fucking sitting on their asses while all the Republicans were up clapping for Americans to protect Americans first. Immigrants, you're second. You're not even on the list. You know where you're on the list? You're on the list to get the fuck out of here. That's what you're on the list. Deportation list. And you need to go. We could solve all this spending craziness, especially New York. New York, Mandani, he's a fucking idiot. We already know this. He's a fucking idiot. And I don't know. Did he ever take economics? Did he major in economics? Did he ever control any Fortune 500 corporations or businesses? Has any experience how to fucking manage a budget? You don't add on to a budget. You cut down. And the easiest and fastest way to fix your motherfucking budget is to deport all those illegals out of New York City. Oh my God, I solved the problem. We don't even need to go crazy taxing people and raising up their property taxes. And we just gotta motherfucking get these fuckers on a plane and ship the motherfucker back to their homes. Oh my God, it's not fucking hard. It's not hard, but he wants an extra $1.2 billion that Hochul gave to New York City to help with the budget. No, we need to cut these motherfuckers' benefits. We need to cut their rents. We need to get them the fuck out of here. And I'm telling you, it would be so many people leaving New York City that New York City will have to drop the rents down. They will have to drop the rents for everyone to bring people, Americans, back to New York City. It would lower so much. Like, it would be so helpful. There would be like, but no, they want to bring all these illegals and then turn them into Americans, and they're not Americans. They're not even from this country. A piece of paper doesn't make you American. Being born here, by American parents make you American. How hard is that? And let me tell you something. The birth certificate issue with Gavin Newsom, he's a fucking idiot. All you have to do is to get your fucking birth certificate. Easy. Oh, I don't have an ID, so how am I going to get my birth certificate? Do you have a mailing address? Do you have bills? How did you get all your bills and so forth if you don't have an ID? How do you get benefits if you don't have an ID? you could get your lazy ass up and go to the fucking hospital from where you were born, and you can request a copy of your birth certificate. You could even go to your city. You could go to City Hall and request for your birth certificate, and one will be provided to you and mailed to you. You probably get it within a week or two. How hard is that's not hard. I wonder why the Democrats want to push like all fucking like Americans, especially Democratic Americans, are fucking stupid. That's what they're pretty much going by. Like all their constituents are fucking idiots. And they don't know how to do shit for themselves, and we have to come as the Democrats to wipe their ass every single time. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. It just pisses me off, you know? It's like, I come on here to get mad. I don't come to get glad. I'm not a fucking commercial. I ain't selling trash bags, but if I am selling trash bags, put one over Mondani's head. Fuck. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with Jason A.
Middle East is rapidly changing. You know, there are prophets that say the world will come to an end in the Middle East. You know that, right?
All morning, Iran's President Pezeshkian says that Tehran views revenge as its, and I'm quoting here, legitimate right and duty, and will do its utmost to fulfill this duty. Revenge is its legitimate right and duty, and they will do their utmost to fulfill that duty.
To fucking shovel snow, you have to have two forms of ID. Are you fucking kidding me?
I want to be very clear. Turkey and Qatar have gained influence in Syria, are seeking influence elsewhere and everywhere throughout the region. And from here, I warn, Turkey is the new Iran. Erdogan is sophisticated, dangerous, and he seeks to encircle Israel. We can't close our eyes again. And while some senior Israelis were on Qatar's payroll, Qatar and Turkey are nourishing the Islamic Brotherhood monster that is growing and eventually might become as dangerous as the one created by Iran. Turkey and Qatar are gaining influence not only in Syria, but also in Gaza, through the front door, and everywhere, and trying to create a new choke ring. Turkey is trying to flip Saudi Arabia against us and establish a hostile Sunni axis with nuclear Pakistan.
The death of Khamenei was mourned on state TV.
Iran has hit back with attacks on Israel and U.S. military bases in several Gulf states. The Pentagon says 3 American soldiers have been killed. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has vowed revenge for the supreme leader's death in a statement read out on state television.
Today, the Interim Leadership Council started its work, and with the help of God, we will continue the path of Imam Khamenei, the path of the dear leader, and the path of all justice seekers in the world with strength. The armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran are acting with strength to destroy the enemy's bases, and they will continue to take action and disappoint the enemies as always.
This is a live picture right now of Jerusalem where things appear calm, but it wasn't a short time ago as cameras captured the moment Israel's Iron Dome intercepted missiles.
Look at that. Wow. That's wild. I think we need to have an earlier system that could reach higher altitudes. I mean, the Golden Dome would be very helpful for Israel, but man, I wonder a lot of things going on right now. Because look at this. And this is Jerusalem. Iran don't give a fuck. They're gonna bomb everyone.
We will deal you such terrifying blows that would make you beg. You will see that your fantasies will last only a couple of days.
Trump responded on Truth Social. Iran just stated that they are going to hit very hard today, harder than they have ever hit before. They better not do that, however, because if they do, we will hit them with a force that has never been seen before.
So bad. He's such a great entertainer.
But Sunday morning, sirens blared over Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
I know, man.
With
They need to get him back.
interceptions taking place overhead. Iran also fired missiles at the Gulf states in retaliation, with explosions reported in Dubai
Yeah, you go
and
there
Doha.
online. It's not hard.
Meanwhile, in
There's
Tehran,
people that can help him to find
thousands
that.
gathered in the city
to
center
be able
to mourn the death of
you know,
Khamenei.
I should create a business.
It was shocking news.
800 number.
News that really fills
Call
one with
me
anger,
and
full of
ask
hatred
me,
towards Israel
how
and America.
Can I get my ID?
We must avenge the blood of
And
the
I could
leader.
tell him. I could charge him a whole bunch of money and tell him, listen,
Iran's supreme
dumb
leader
shit.
is dead.
Go
What
to
kind
the
of
fucking hospital you were
scenarios are
born
Iran's
from.
neighbors likely to be
But it's too
preparing
far.
for now?
Call them.
They have prepared
My
for this
God.
scenario. They have, in fact,
Lazy fucking
warned
people.
Washington
Democrats are
of
very
this kind
lazy.
of attack because they feared precisely what has happened so far, that Iran would attack its own territory, or their own territories, Persian Gulf states, as much as neighboring states. So that is something where the leaders of the Arab states now have to fear that with the Islamic Republic decapacitated, who will take over, and will they fight even fiercer because they know that the end is nigh. This could be different this time because it's clear what is in the offing. It could be the end of the Islamic Republic and therefore also the end of any support for Hezbollah.
All the Democrats know how to do is
in the last summer,
whine and
there must have been a calculation that one can somehow outlast the current or the then current attacks. So really, this is a moment probably for some of the militias to think whether they can throw their weight behind this probably last defense of the Islamic Republic. So here there is still some elements of surprise if, for example, Hezbollah or militias in Iraq or the Houthis in Yemen, they would enter this war on Iran's side.
Israeli occupation, which we do not know where it will stop, they should take up a
you
shared
see?
stance.
Terry, you see?
Since the very beginning, we have been making.
And was
this
it hard
call.
to do? No.
Israel is spoiled.
But you ordered yours. You were
And
born
is
in
carrying
Maryland.
out state terror
But you
in an
forgot you lived
outlawed
here in
way.
Connecticut.
And the only thing that can stop it is the alliance
And if
of
Terry could
Islamic
fucking
countries.
do it,
We all know
anyone
about
can
the
fucking
arrival
do
of the
it. It's
Mashiach.
not
One day the
fucking
Messiah will
hard.
come. We know about Gog Magog, a major
It's all
war that will
excuses,
take place in
man.
the world, which
I'm fucking
Zechariah
tired of
14
the
describes,
Democrats and
Charia
their
the prophet,
bullshit, man.
which
All
describes
they do
two-thirds
is
of the people in the world will be wiped out in moments. We know a lot of things from the prophets and from the Kabbalah and from the Gemara. It will be a massive war in the world. We call it Gog Magog. Gog Magog, according to the prophets, and according mainly to Zechariah 14, describe a massive attack against the nation of Israel. All the nations of the world united in the beginning, Esau and Ishmael will fight with each other, meaning Christians and Muslims will kill each other, which we see as it is right now. And then one point they'll get up and say, wait a minute, why are we killing each other? It's never going to end. We have a mutual enemy that we should both unite and kill him. Who are they? Israel. And they make a covenant and they turn against Yerushalayim and they come to take Yerushalayim by force. And at that time, women from Jerusalem, I don't want to tell you what's going to happen to them from your respect. And many people would run to hide in holes in the deserts and it will be a disaster for X amount of time. And then the salvation will begin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would come and interfere with the war and will put such death to all these wicked anti-Semite people, will wipe them one after the other. This is the prophet that lives about 2,500 years ago. He described clearly a nuclear war. Yeah, I have to remind you that in his generation, there were swords, spears, and bow and arrow. No bullets, no guns, no missiles, no chemical, no atomic, none of it appears in his time. The way he described the world would be, people's eyes would melt out of their holes, would become water. People would try to hold each other and save them from drowning, and their hands will come out. And he will hold the hand, there will be nothing to hold. It will melt in his hand. The Goyim will try to help each other. The revenge of Hashem will be
with no mercy at them whatsoever. Who will pay the price? The wicked Gentiles, not the righteous. The righteous Gentiles who kept the 7 law and they love the Jews, or they serve Jews on the Holocaust, or things like that. It says like this: after this war, when 2/3 of the people will get wiped out, it will take years to clean the bodies. It won't be so simple. But the days of the Mashiach would finally arrive. How Mashiach would come? There would be an earthquake, as the prophet described, behind the Kotel, the Har HaZeitim, the Olive Mountain. If you stand across the street from the Western Wall on these old city buildings on the roof, you see clearly the mountains with all the graves. That's where the salvation will begin. There will be a big noise of shofar, in a word, big siren, earthquake, the mountain will split to 2 and start to shift. Water will come out of the ground, will be massive flood, and everybody in the world will know.
All right. Thank you, Jason A. Great upload. Let's keep it moving. We got a lot to watch.
Launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons, would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Now, you know the Democrats are going to go crazy. Congress wants to form an emergency meeting and impeach Trump again. They want to impeach him now because he should have went to Congress and gotten authority to attack. That's what they're going to want to do. Watch. You'll see. You'll see. All right, let's keep it moving.
Let's go down to the White House now. Our Washington correspondent, Jonathan Kersley, is there to bring it all together. President Trump warned Americans to prepare for military casualties, Jono, and that's what's happened.
That's exactly right, Pete. In that recorded message he sent from Mar-a-Lago almost 48 hours ago, President Trump warned the American population that with this major combat operation, Operation Epic Fury, American lives could be lost. And earlier today here in the United States, we heard that officially for the first time in this conflict, US lives have been lost. US Central Command releasing a statement that said 3 US service members have been killed in action and 5 are seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. It goes on to say, though, major combat operations continue and our response effort is ongoing. That major combat operation, President Trump alluded to in a post on Truth Social not too long ago at all, in which he said, "We have destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships, some of them relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea also. In a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters." Clearly, President Trump is trying to show the positive sides and that America is well ahead. He has said as much in interviews with various US news outlets today. With Fox News, he claimed that 48 members of the Iranian leadership have been killed in just the first wave of strikes by the United States and Israel. We also are seeing not just Ali Khamenei, who was killed yesterday, but senior figures of the Iranian leadership have now been named. Among those killed, not only Ali Khamenei, but members of his family too. And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, also among the fatalities now in this conflict. The United States and Israel really trying to strike at the very heart of the regime itself. Let's hear now from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and then Iran's foreign minister as well.
We are in a campaign in which we are bringing the full force of the IDF as never before to ensure our existence and our future. But we are also bringing into this campaign the assistance of the United States, my friend, US President Donald Trump, and the US military. And this combination of forces enables us to do what we have long hoped to do for 40 years, to strike the terror regime decisively.
Obvious that this assassination would make this confrontation more complicated and even more dangerous. It is absolutely unprecedented and a big violation of international law that a leader of another country is assassinated by foreign forces.
Back to the president, Jono. He remains optimistic that the deadly strike on Khamenei could actually lead to better talks with Iran.
Pete, that's right. He alluded to this yesterday in some of his statements he posted to Truth Social, and in an interview with The Atlantic, he has said, they want to talk and I have agreed to talk, so I will be talking to them. They should have done it sooner. They should have given what was very practical and easy to do sooner. They waited too long. Even that, as Oman's foreign minister said, around about 72 hours or so, he was hopeful that things were moving in the right direction. He seemed to suggest that there were signs that Iran was conceding on key ground when it came to nuclear enrichment. But then we saw the waves of these strikes and the retaliation from Iran inside Israel. The Iranian missile fell inside Tel Aviv. We've also seen the deadly strike on Beit Shemesh, at least 9 people dead there. The security minister, Ben Gvir, paying a tribute, a visit to that site there. Israel has continued its onslaught inside Tehran, the IDF releasing its own vision of the strikes it has been carried out. But here domestically, there are still significant questions that will be aimed at the president when he returns to Washington, D.C. later on tonight. Democrats are still concerned that Congress was bypassed, that this was an act of war, that it should have gone before them. Interestingly, here on the Sunday morning shows today, no appearances so far from Trump administration officials. Obviously, they are waiting for the American commander-in-chief to say what he needs to say today. And I reckon we may well hear from him on Air Force One as he makes his way back from Palm Beach here to the nation's capital later on.
So this was before
this is what
Trump
one
spoke.
Democrat, Chris Coons, had to say earlier today.
I can understand the president taking a bold gamble, but I disagree with this gamble at this moment, because I do think, according to the Omani foreign minister, that the Iranian regime, the weakest it's been in years, was actually making real concessions.
We have seen Iranians take to the streets in New York City today. I can also hear a fairly vocal protest taking place here in Washington, D.C. itself as the president prepares to make his way back here. When he does so, we will obviously bring that to you.
Well, they're
You can expect
protesting
that in the
in
coming
happiness.
hours,
They're not
Pete.
protesting
Conflict
negative.
continues.
We'll keep an eye out for that.
I mean, some
Jonathan
people
Kersey,
are
thank
doing
you so
negative,
much.
but there's a lot of them are very positive protesting and happy, like celebrating that Iran got rid of the Ayatollah. Like, that's what they're celebrating on the streets. But you see how he kept that information? That's why the media is full of shit. You know what I mean? They're just full of shit. Give me 1 second, because I saw a video come up here that I want us to watch. So because the media is fucking full of shit. You know, they've been very far left, and then they're trying to pretend that they're in the middle, but they're still very far left. And you know, they're trying to like make Trump look bad. It's like, no, man, we're doing this for humanity. Fuck your party. Fuck your feelings. This is for the people of Iran. It's not for us. It's not for the Americans. Yeah, it'll be more safety and more, you know, hopefully, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, they'll look back on this day and they'll be like, wow, thank you, America, for doing this. Look at the path that we're on now, and we're prospering. No, they don't think that far. They don't think that far. They only think of their feelings at the moment. I gotta write a letter. Let me tweet this. I gotta tweet it every now. Hold on, I gotta tweet. The Democrats, fuck their feelings. They make 0 sense. 0 sense. Like, I'm so confused about the Democrats. I've never... This was in my bingo card when I was a kid, that the Democratic Party would turn into the Democrats and like wreak havoc upon the United States and the American people, especially their constituents. That's crazy. It's just fucking crazy. All right, here we go. Let's watch some liberal headline. to put up that sound.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of
Let's
course,
make it big.
The meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. You know, most people just want to watch the Olympics. They want to see their country win. They want to feel a sense of euphoria, a sense of pride, a sense of patriotism. And I think for a lot of people, you really want to cheer on these young talents. I mean, these kids are just absolutely incredible, pretty much across the board. You know, you want to follow the character profiles. You want to follow the heartwarming stories. You want to feel proud for these people. You want to amplify their messages and their stories because it's inspiring for the next generation coming up. But unfortunately, thanks to the leftist lamestream media, no, we just can't have nice things anymore. We can't enjoy the nice things. No, what needs to dominate the Olympics news cycle is the evil orange man every freaking day. It's Trump this and Trump that. You got U.S. men's hockey bringing home gold. These are the top hockey players in the world, the top NHLers. These guys are freaking superstars, and they made history, and it'd be nice, you know, to get an idea of what's going through their head, what their experiences were like. But no, instead, we get this. We get Brady Tkachuk being questioned, being grilled by a Canadian press member on the very important issue, the biggest scandal of the week. Why did you laugh at a joke that Donald Trump made? How dare you laugh at an insensitive comment from the evil orange man? These people are so freaking insufferable. It's not even funny. And just like I've been saying, they ruin everything. We're not allowed to have fun. We're not allowed to have nice moments if Democrats are in the damn room. Now you got to walk on eggshells, right? We know this with left-wing circles. God forbid you commit a hate crime. God forbid you engage in a microaggression. God forbid you signal the wrong political views. We got another one of these moments, this time with Brady Tkachuk, and well, in a way, you know, indirectly, you could tell what he was responding to this absolute clown asking him questions, basically telling him to go F himself. Let me show you guys exactly what happened as Team USA continues to stand by their actions and they're refusing to surrender to the woke mob. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so we got this moment here. We got USA hockey player Brady Tkachuk being confronted by a member of the leftist Canadian media, and well, take a look.
I know you supported the women's team. I saw you watching their semifinal. I heard KK talking about you, Abby Murphy, but you understand how they could feel pretty put down by that moment.
I get it. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't really, of course, I have no really other comments other than, you know, for the things that we control, and that was, you know, we supported them, they support us. Can't control about, you know, what other people say. That's just kind of life itself. So, but for us, is I thought not just the importance, but it was fun being around them. It was fun seeing them play. It was fun to see the excellence that they brought every single game, and how they're by far the best team in that tournament. It was just fun hanging out with them after, you know, picking their brains. They're picking our brains, and it was just fun to be around them.
So then why would you laugh when they got invited?
I don't really have an answer. Honestly, it was just a whirlwind of a moment that, like, you can't really control what
You laughed again. That was funny.
I guess caught off guard a little bit, but
why would you laugh?
10 minutes after you
Why
just
wouldn't
achieved
I?
your dream, it's just the fact that you're talking to him. It's just, you can't really believe where your life's at, that you're talking to the president of the United States after you just won a gold medal.
Yeah, it's exactly as I described. You laughed at a joke that the president made about the women's hockey team. Answer for your crimes against humanity. Can you please piss off forever? How do these people have jobs? It's crazy. I mean, the world is so different from me, I'll tell you that much. If I was an executive at one of these networks, if I was, you know, in charge of who's allowed to engage in journalism and who's not, I'd fire all these clowns in half a freaking second. I don't understand where they find these people and why they keep these people, these annoying, pearl-clutching losers. This constant, how dare you attitude. And again, the most frustrating part is the timing. I mean, constantly harping on these players. It's such an insult. You can't let them live this incredible moment. No, they need to answer to every little thing relating to President Trump. If Joe Biden was in office, you know the question would be, well, you're visiting the White House. What an honor that will be with President Joe Biden. Are you excited to meet the man himself, the greatest president of all time? But no, with Donald Trump, it's just, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Just nothing but outrage. And of course, it's fake fake outrage. I mean, what is it? What's this horrible thought crime that Donald Trump engaged in? Well, basically what he said was, we're going to have to bring the women's team also. You do know that. I do believe I probably would get impeached if I didn't. That's the quote. Clearly poking fun at the fact that, female sports is not as popular, but the mainstream media and the woke mob, if he was not to invite the female team, I mean, you could imagine how the outrage would be. And he's not saying that he wouldn't invite them. He's just making a joke. It's a lighthearted jab. And I believe he said this over the phone when they were celebrating, and a couple of the players started laughing. I mean, so what? It's called a joke. And what really pisses me off is how the left is always taking comments that are obviously made in jest, especially by the president, and pretending as if they're serious statements. Can we please just act like adults here? Most of us understand the core tenets of comedy. Sometimes you'll say something outrageous. Sometimes you'll say something offensive, or you'll make a comment that's kind of pushing the limits. That's the entire purpose, right? To create surprise or shock, to get a reaction from people. And of course, usually there's always a little bit of a dash of truth,
Multitasking.
Right? Sprinkled on top, saying something that you're not supposed to say, but people are kind of thinking it, and then their intrinsic reaction is to laugh. I mean, yes, human beings laugh at statements that are hyperbolic, that are extreme, that are satirical, that are shocking, surprising. We're now in the business of condemning people for laughing at jokes. We're in the business of condemning people who engage in humor. Who wants to be part of this side? I can't think of anything more cringe, more annoying and petulant. And it's equally more annoying when you know that really they have no stake in it. Oh, how dare you speak about the female hockey team in that way? They are deserving of the same respect as everybody else. The implication that they're not relevant is racist and misogynistic. They're just as good as the male athletes and deserve the same pay, right? That's always the freaking angle from these idiot leftoids. And all you got to do is respond and say, well, okay, I guess you're so butthurt because apparently Donald Trump is so mean and so off the mark, and Donald Trump's statement was so uncalled for and not resembling of reality. Yeah, how about you name a single hockey player on Team USA? And every single time, you know what the reaction is from these freaks, right? A blank stare, total silence. I'm sure they could all name all kinds of male hockey players and basketball players and football players and baseball players, but they can never name a female athlete. They're so hell-bent on promoting female sports, this, that, and the other, but they don't go to the games. They don't put their money where their mouth is. They don't follow the action. And obviously, that was the purpose of the remark. That was the joke. It's true. It may be a little bit insensitive, but so what? It's true. And it's funny. And players shouldn't be condemned because they laughed at something that was funny in the moment. Like I was saying earlier, for the most part, it's subconscious. You don't even realize. You're in the moment, you're celebrating, you're having a good time, and then someone says something that's funny, something that just catches you, and you laugh. The idea that now represents them, that represents how they actually feel, and they should apologize for it, it's ridiculous. All of this is ridiculous. And again, we see the same thing. The left hates humor. They're the enemy of comedy, and they're just so damn annoying. Every single time, they just always have to interject with their frickin' pearl-clutching nonsense. But again, they haven't gotten the memo. We don't care. It's 2026. It's the golden age. Enough of your outrage manipulation. We do not care if you're pretending to be offended on behalf of all women athletes. It's a frickin' joke. Stop stealing the spotlight from these incredible players to build your pathetic little media campaigns against President Trump. I think it's very clear U.S. men's hockey has no interest in turning on Trump in the media to help you craft your pathetic narrative. Oh, they're regular people. They can separate politics from patriotism, humor from reality, and being literal. And that, my friends, is because they're normal, emotionally stable adults. And maybe you leftoid journalists can learn a thing from them, huh? Yeah, as if we'll ever see that day come. Anyways, what else can I say? Just more, annoying little news gremlins, little journalists. And the USA men's hockey team just continuing to be absolute gigachads, totally unfazed by this nonsense. This, my friends, is why I've started watching a lot more hockey these days, and less NBA and NFL. I mean, could you imagine the exact same situation? But these people were interviewing LeBron James and Steph Curry. Or what's that guy's name? Stephen Kerr.
How dare you?
Yeah, good on these boys once again holding their ground. And total condemnation for these left-wing media actors. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
That was funny. Let's keep it moving. Let's put up the volume.
News alerts as U.S. and Israeli forces continue to pound Iran with airstrikes today, and the Iranians launching missiles of their own at targets across the region. Fox News correspondent David Spun is covering the latest from the administration in Florida. Hello, David.
Hello, Shannon. President Trump here at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach for a second full day after the strikes on Tehran. This is something his team is watching closely. This Palm Beach has really become the nerve center for the decision-making process. He was up after midnight posting on True Social with an ominous warning to Iran. Just hours ago, President Trump said Iran just stated that they are going to hit very hard today, harder than they ever have hit before. They better not do it, however, because if they do, we will hit them with a force that has never been seen before. During the strike, Shannon, now more than 24 hours ago, the president met with his top advisors here in Palm Beach, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane, also Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Now, they briefed the team on the strikes. The president with this warning to the American people about 24 hours ago.
I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region.
President Trump has no public events today. He will head back to Washington to visit with other members of his team, including Vice President J.D. Vance and others when he gets back to the White House later this evening. Shannon?
All right, David Spund from West Palm Beach. David, thank you very much. Time now for our Sunday group. Hans Nichols, Axios political reporter. Marie Harf, former State Department spokesperson. Reince Priebus, former chief of staff to President Trump, and Roger Zakheim, director of the Ronald Reagan Institute. Great to have you all here this morning. Okay, I want to read this from the editorial board at the New York Times. Again, taking aim at the president and what is now playing out. They say Mr. Trump's failure to articulate a strategy for this attack has created shocking levels of uncertainty about it. He's called for regime change and offered no sense of why the world should expect this campaign to end better than the 21st century attempts at regime change in Iraq and Afghanistan. Right.
These guys are unbelievable. I mean, they make winning feel like losing. They are the rain at every parade, and they can't just take a second and acknowledge the fact that what happened yesterday was spectacular in the sense of its execution. I think that what we saw yesterday was that this was not hodgepodge, that in fact, the military and the brave men and women of our country that serve every day had things planned out. And it turned out to be something that we should celebrate after decades of this guy killing Americans and thousands of people across the country. I think the Democrats ought to hedge their bet a little bit and maybe be a little bit slower. And this might just work out. The president's on an amazing streak when it comes to foreign policy, starting with ISIS, going to Venezuela, going to Gaza. Now we've got what's happening in Iran. I would caution them to not go too far with their condemnation of an amazing day.
Well, you heard Senator Kaine earlier saying he considers just the president declaring war, which has to go through Congress. The Wall Street Journal editorial board, though, says this, with some caution to Democrats: the Constitution gives presidents ample room to use military force against threats to U.S. security. Members of Congress may demand a vote on a war powers resolution that could block military action after 60 days. But by all means, let's see who in Congress wants to side with Iran, given all the Americans its forces have killed over the decades. Marie, some caution there?
I think that the process questions are not actually the real point as we sit here on this Sunday morning. This was a war of choice that President Trump started because he has fallen in love with tactical military power. And Reince is right. It was an amazing tactical success, but that is not the same thing as strategic victory. Overthrowing Gaddafi, overthrowing Saddam Hussein, overthrowing the Taliban, none of that resulted in democratic pro-U.S. regimes. We all want a democratic free Iran. I think we can all agree about that. There's just not a lot of evidence that military action is the way to do it. The Iranian regime had a succession plan in place. Command and control of the IRGC still in place. The regime is still in place. And asking the Iranian people to rise up and somehow on their own, they don't have the guns, the regime has the guns, and we've seen they're willing to use them. You don't go to war, Shannon, because there are bad guys you can kill. You go to war because there's a high likelihood that strategic success is worth the high costs. And if the goal is a democratic Iran, I've seen no evidence in history or in planning for this operation that that can actually be achieved right now.
Oh, what about that point, Roger? I see you shaking your head, so I give you the
Not
floor.
in agreement, just to clarify which way I was
shocked,
shaking.
not nodding.
To me,
I'm
this
shocked.
is
Not nodding, shaking.
strategic in every aspect. This regime has for 47 years attacked our interests. And because of what took place yesterday, the leader of that regime was taken out. It will have a major strategic impact on the region. What we don't know is the full reach of that impact, but to call this tactical misses entirely what took place. The United States is safer because of what happened yesterday. President Trump, because of that courageous decision, has an opportunity to transform the region, but at the very least,
for
the status
decades
quo
and
where we are
decades to
today
come.
is markedly different from the vulnerable situation the United States has been in and our allies have been for 47 years. This is, if anything, the most consequential strategic military action in 47 years in the Middle East. And to call it tactical misses entirely what took place. There are a lot of off-ramps here. President Trump is somebody who likes to keep his options open. If he wants to call this a victory tomorrow and end the military operations, he has degraded this regime and won't threaten U.S. interests for a decade or more. That's great. Question is, can he go beyond that? We'll see. A further degradation of the regime over the coming days, perhaps weeks, could provide that opportunity for the Iranian people to seek the freedom they deserve. And it's wonderful that President Trump is not looking at this in narrow security terms, but he's actually using the language of freedom. The Iranian people deserve that. The people in the region deserve that. And that could be the transformation that we've sought for decades.
Well, and Hans, so we've got weeks, maybe months. We'll see how this plays out in the immediate fallout from these strikes.
It's horrible,
How does
man.
this play out on Capitol Hill? Because the White House is going to be facing these war powers resolution votes and, demands to explain further.
Look, the votes on Capitol Hill will be largely predictable. They'll be procedural. They'll be processed to use. I mean, look, this is a serious policy debate taking place right now. You guys are both articulating your views, and it's a debate that's happening out in the open.
Congress wants to be the president of the United States. They want to have the powers of the president.
And that is, do you vote for the War Powers Act? Now, I suspect we'll see.
I didn't vote for
someone votes
Congress
to sort of
to
restrain the president. They're
restrict the
Democrat. It
president.
may make an
I voted for the
appearance in a
president to
30-second
take charge.
spot sometime in November. The real issue of the War Powers Act is largely symbolic, right? The president can go ahead and he can veto it. So you have to have a veto-proof majority. And he's got this long runway. So yes, we're going to have a debate on Capitol Hill, but it's really not going to be as interesting as the one we're hearing here, which is serious, important policy differences being aired out. It's going to be procedural.
That's why we love our panels so much. You are serious and intelligent in tackling the policy.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Well,
and I'm Ainsley
you know.
Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
The Democrats going to cry and bitch no matter what. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Let's keep it moving.
I have some breaking news. I want to bring this in now. I've been telling everybody about the Austin mass shooter, and now we have a picture. And this is what we're finding out. Per multiple federal law enforcement sources to our own Bill Maloogian, the Austin mass shooter is a 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen who was born in Senegal and was living in Pflugerville, Texas.
No, he's from
Material
Africa.
recovered from his person and inside the vehicle give possible indications of
Allah?
a nexus to
What?
terrorism, as the FBI announced earlier today. And remember what we said he had in his possession and was also wearing. The shooter was wearing clothing that said Allah on it. His sweater said property of Allah. And there's also known to be an undershirt with an Iranian flag and other materials inside. And remember what Representative Michael McCall of Texas just told me last hour. He said, Harris, in my own backyard, just last night, we had an event that possibly could have been terror inspired right here in Austin, Texas. This is what he was talking about. Brett, I was reminding Americans, this is not a new place for us to be in terms of keeping our heads on a swivel. But
I told you
bears
guys.
repeating,
I told
we've lost
my
Americans in the
constituents,
fight on the
my
battlefield,
people,
and protecting
my
the homeland
subscribers.
now is
I
also
warned y'all.
something that we must be on the alert. Now, authorities have not
Now,
tied
it's
this
y'all to. It's
Austin
up to you. You want to listen or
situation to
not?
what's happening in the Middle East as terror related
As
to
I'm
that,
eating
but they
popcorn.
are investigating it just moments ago, confirming as a possible terror
I told you
attack.
guys to get your
reaction.
favorite snack.
Well, we have to remain vigilant. I mean, Khamenei, he was a religious figure. We don't know if this attack was associated, but it very well may be. But the fact is, this is a representation of
Bro,
how
you better be
most
careful out
people
there
from
with
that
those
region
Muslims.
feel. The Iranian people, they fear their
We're going
own
to do an
rulers more
epic
than our own
city out there.
military. They hate their own oppressive rulers than anyone else. And we may see more attacks like this. We have to be vigilant. There are proxy groups everywhere that are looking for ways to harm Americans and hurt Americans. And but the fact of the matter is, overall, there are images right now showing most Iranians and most Shias celebrating today, not because of war, but because they hate their own rulers more than anyone else. That's a sign that we're striking, not just at their military, we're striking at the legitimacy of a brutal regime. The Iranian people want better relationships with the West. They have the potential to be our biggest ally. I think it's important we collectively separate the terrorist regime from that of the majority Iranian people. These people have spent decades, trying to hurt us. And so the fact is, again, we just need to remain vigilant in the wake of these strikes.
Look, I don't want to make too much out of this because the FBI and federal authorities have to do their jobs and tell us what the facts are with this particular case. But you are looking at on your screen right now, the man that they suspect to be the Austin, Texas shooter. And he is 53 years old. And I don't know if you had seen this as well. There were all sorts of descriptions about age, but now we know some specificity. He's 53-year-old American citizen, naturalized, originally from Senegal. He is wearing a sweater.
Ain't no fucking American.
You can see here.
American citizen don't mean he's a fucking American.
Allah, with an undershirt in the Iranian flag. I want to ask you about this. We had a tremendous amount of people come across the border, and I can't ignore this because this is just fact, Brett. There are a lot of people in this country, we don't know if they're being radicalized. Maybe some came in and they participated in that or led the way or have become something different while they're here. But it matters letting millions of people come in and you have no way to vet them. And that's what happened under the Biden administration. We're catching up, but a lot of those people are still here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, because he's dead.
Well, with that, as well as what's going on overseas, there's been a seismic shift in global security, right? That regime over there in Iran is, fragile. After decades of corruption, that border for years was a perfect place for the Iranian regime to send some of their proxy groups undetected. I don't know if you remember years ago, we almost had an attack in DC where Iranians were sent in to try and kill the Saudi ambassador at the time.
I told you this a long time ago.
That want to hurt us, and right now there is a
all
complete
confirmation
structural
for me.
shock to the Iranian regime and their way of life. Their internal system is highly centralized around this supreme leader, and that religious leader is gone. I think that was one of the reasons that President Trump initially had maybe held off the Israelis striking Khamenei because he was such a religious figure. But that's changed now. We've removed that node, and it's created this uncertainty inside the clerical establishment across the proxy networks globally, and we need to just pay attention for more attacks like this.
Brett Velikovich, thank you for your response too on those Americans who've been killed and those who have been badly injured. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's keep it moving. Well, hell no.
Holy smokes, man, things are popping off. The law of unintended consequences, or maybe intended consequences, I don't know. There has now been an Islamic terrorist attack on American soil in Texas. 2 are dead. As a individual from Senegal, this is a Muslim caliphate country, attacked and killed Americans. He had Islamic garb on. He was yelling Islamic phrases. I don't know what that is. And he had a Quran with him. This is obviously a retaliatory attack because we killed the Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of Iran,
Hope
and our
everyone's having a good
decimating
night
regime
who's
forces
watching.
throughout Iran. But at what cost? The
I better
FBI
not be
confirmed
running
that it was an
away.
act of terrorism. Now we know that
Not a
American
lot.
soldiers and military members
Be
are
good.
dead
Have
after
a
some
good night
intense
tonight.
attacks and some direct attacks on U.S. military installations throughout the Mideast. This is the 5th Fleet Naval Base in Bahrain. You could track the medical carriers. CENTCOM confirming that 3 Americans are dead in Operation Epic Fury. This is a horrible tragedy. You can see just very, very dangerous environment throughout the Mideast and some of the safer countries on Earth. I mean, everyone's like, oh, Dubai, it's so safe. Well, Dubai is in flames right now and burning. American troops dead. And I think, I fear, and I said this yesterday, not that I wanted to, but because it's true, that things are going to get far worse before they get better. I guess the idea here is that the Iranians would just surrender and that everything would just go as planned. Doesn't seem to be the case. It looks like Tehran is being reduced to absolute rubble. It's going to be looking like Gaza, quite frankly. There have been, by the way, assassinations all throughout the country. This is a massive and ongoing and very, very active, very, very dangerous operation that is really popping off right now. Iran attacks U.S. aircraft carrier as retaliation strikes kill 3 service members. Tehran raised red flag of revenge and launched kamikaze drones across Mid-East. These are the kind of ways that things sort of spiral. This is a U.S. air base in Qatar. You can see here in flames right now. But something that was devastating, virtually a career killer for Hillary Clinton, was her response to Benghazi. You remember Benghazi? We were supposed to be greeted as liberators. We killed Gaddafi in Libya. But that, of course, created a absolute and total entanglement that spiraled wildly out of control. Yep. And then they were able to go and kill American service members and embassy staff, because America has consulates and embassies that are sovereign American soil. That's how it works diplomatically all around the world. And right now, those embassies are under attacks. The U.S. consulate in Karachi is under massive attack. The animals have broken in and are attacking the U.S. military base. You can see panic and chaos as Muslims storm the embassy, smash up the windows. Like, do we not have any security at these places? Like, how are they able to just like run in and run right up to the windows and then smash them?
Dude, these are the people that we got to go after. You see this shit?
Well, great advertisement. Great advertisement for whatever glass that is. Preventing them from breaking actually into the embassy. But these are the laws of unintended consequences. This is how stuff like this spirals out of control.
Yeah, these are the future
terrorists.
Kill the
Ayatollah Khomeini, but Iran's a very powerful nation, a nation of 90 million people, a nation that obviously has common cause with other Islamic regimes, and that's all that there is in this part of the world. Other Islamic regimes, and there are plenty of other Islamic nations that are against Iran. Obviously, there are Islamic nations like Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and these are countries that obviously don't like what's going on in Iran either. Sunni versus Shia Muslim kind of stuff, ancient tribal warfare stuff, exactly the kind of stuff that I don't want to get involved in as an American because of this. These are kind of things that spiral out of control and spiral fast. Like, look at this. What do you think is going to happen? So this is these are obviously the kind of situations where where ambassadors get drugged through the street and killed. This is what happened obviously in Libya. This is what happened in Benghazi, and it just looks terrible. They're holding up photos of the Ayatollah. Clearly, this is something that it doesn't seem to be happening naturally, but it is happening. The Iranian regime still has a lot of power. They can pay for these protesters. 6 have been killed in response. This is, again, in Pakistan. A second U.S. consulate in Pakistan stormed. First Karachi, now Lahore. Fire is spreading. Every flag, every symbol, all targets now. So they're attacking multiple embassies. Protesters storm U.S. consulate in Pakistan, 9 dead. Sorry, man. I got to tell you, if you storm a U.S. consulate, can't have another Benghazi. It has to be a shoot on sight. It's sovereign American soil, sovereign American territory. I know that, like, since the Biden administration, we haven't really been protecting sovereign American territory that well, but this is sovereign American soil, and we've all seen what can happen when these embassies get overrun, and then they drag, obviously, our security personnel and our ambassadors through the street and defile them. You know, you can still see the videos of what happened during Benghazi. It's really, really bad. And this would be very bad for the Trump administration. They cannot allow this to happen. 9 killed, 32 injured protests in Karachi following the Ayatollah Khomeini's death. Police fired tear gas at the crowds. The crowds breached the gates. Live rounds were fired. U.S. Disguised as Marine opened fire on the protesters in front of the consulate. I'm totally okay with this. Sorry, can't have another Benghazi. Can't have it. We've all seen what happens. The Marines at the consulate made direct headshots. Mob storms. At least, listen, go up to sovereign American territory and soil and see what happens. That's what embassies are. Go up to an embassy here in the United States of America. They have their own security personnel, their own staff. Like half of DC are just foreign embassies. They have their own security staff, and they have the right to defend their embassies as sovereign soil of Russia or China or whatever. Okay. Violent clashes. Again, here are some of the images. Thankfully, local police, it looks like, are helping put this down. But you can see Ayatollah being mourned in the streets. Iraqis are using bulldozers in an attempt to storm the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad this morning. Yikes. Look at that. Start driving through. Oh, good. Iraq. Thank God we had 10,000 Americans die for Iraq and hundreds of thousands more. U.S. Marines are not to be effed with. FAFO. Chaos in Baghdad as pro-Iranian regime attempt to breach the green zone, reportedly trying to get into the U.S. Embassy. U.S. Embassy in Islamabad. We're monitoring the ongoing demonstrations, as well as calls for additional demonstrations at U.S. embassies and consulates. We advise U.S. citizens in Pakistan to monitor local news and to observe good personal security practices, including being aware of your surroundings and large crowds. They're saying the same thing here, stateside. Breaking from Pakistan, a security point at the U.S. consulate has been set on fire. Here's more footage here. But American forces responded with deadly force after it was stormed. Unsure why visa applications should be accepted from any country in which an embassy and consulate is unsafe. Doesn't happen in Singapore, for example. That's a great point. Imagine we topple the Iranian regime, but it creates a revolution in Pakistan. A new hardline Islamic theocracy rises up, led by a charming cleric. They take over the U.S. embassy and hold everybody hostage. We learned the hard way that there's always exactly one Iran on earth. Yikes. Yeah, that's a good point. That's exactly what happened in the Iranian Revolution, right? They captured American embassy workers and then held them hostage. They protest outside the U.S. consulate. Eyewitnesses claim shots came from inside of the compound. Tensions are high. Well, don't storm a compound. You know, if Americans stormed the Russian compound here in America, they would be able. They have actually an obligation and a right to defend it with deadly force. You know, there's been a little bit of frustration with like the Russians here in America, but that's not how you do things, right? In civilized nations. Why are we taking infinity immigrant? Why are we taking any visas from any of these countries, right? It's a great question.
I don't know.
Lead to actual mass deportations.
They want the votes.
Hopefully, it's a crazy world out there.
That's what the Democrats do. They just want the votes, so they bring these fuckers in here and make them American citizens. Are you fucking kidding me? A fucking American citizen? They don't even know how to fucking read or write English. How the hell did they become American citizens out of nowhere? Makes you wonder. It just truly makes you wonder. And these motherfuckers are causing massive accidents and a lot of loss of life. Why? Because of their fucking stupidity. and it's not fair. We need to get them out of here as soon as possible. We can't just deal with this shit. We gotta deal with it now. Get them out. Stop procrastinating. Let's go. All right. Got more to watch.
March 1st, 2026. Guys, a quick video. I'm going to just come into the intro of it, and I'm going to back out
Biden,
and show
Obama.
you a camera view overlooking Tel Aviv, and off to the far right, I think, is possibly Jerusalem. And then it's going to switch to some cell phone cameras that are showing the effects of what you're going to see happening in Jerusalem. And it's overwhelming missile attacks. We talked about this in a couple of videos, guys, that the mountain ranges are so vast in Iran. There could be hundreds of sites where you could launch missiles. Plus, you can launch them from mobile trucks and things like that, guys, and then shoot, move, and communicate. You know the old saying. Anyway, I'm going to back out of this. This is going to come in live from Tel Aviv earlier tonight, and you'll hear the sirens, and you're going to see the attacks and the counterattacks, but you're going to hear some explosions. But until we go to the cell phone footage, you're not going to see the full impacts. Over to the right, you're going to see smoke starting to come up. You'll see the rocket trails as Iron Dome is launched. You can see the rocket of the dome there. But guys, the end of this, it's what's overwhelming. I don't know how you could stop that type of missile barrage. So again, we mentioned multiple attack points are possible in the mountains of Iran. Again, mobile, stationary, whatever. And it looks like they're doing it now. When they do this, they're going to light up some radar and target themselves. But again, if it's mobile or they have so many, it's like you're sacrificing this section because for this barrage, this section for the next one, whatever. But guys, this is overwhelming. We're going to get more reports. I think Trump has responded, saying that all hell's about to break loose. But again, it looks like in Tehran itself, I don't think they're coming from that area. It's so heavily watched. Could be, again, from some of the different locations. And one of you guys in the comments earlier said you had reports of 9 Iranian battleships or Navy ships that had been taken out already. And that's several hours ago. But again, guys, I'm going to back out. You're going to see Tel Aviv first, and then I think cell phone images coming from Jerusalem. Heads up, be safe.
This is Jerusalem. That's the Great Wall right there. This is the Great Wall. And I remember seeing this from, was it 2 months ago when they had the first blitz, the 12-day war that I covered on here? But as you can see, sirens are going off. I'm pretty sure soon you're going to see some interceptors go up. That's how you know for sure a missile's coming. When the interceptors are... This is going to be like this for a while, man. I hope they reloaded pretty good. I know they did. They got a lot of weaponry. And plus they got a battleship docked right off of Israel. So there they go. There they go. There you go, because the missiles are coming in. So here goes the interceptors. They don't just shoot the interceptors for no reason. They're actually going after the bombs that are coming in. There they are. There's one. That one's going to hit. Did one hit? Oh no, there's more interceptors. Man, this is so scary, man. Interceptors don't go up for no reason. They go up on a mission to intercept the missile. And you better listen to the bangs. Hope and pray to God, man, because the next 3 days is really, really, really bad. Oh, something landed there. You hear it? Wow, you see the flashes? You know, Israel's going to retaliate really hard, man. And the United States also. They're going to be escalating. Oh, man. Iran's in for a horrible, horrible time. And they need to go after the ones that are shooting these rockets. Whoa, look at this.
There's no way to stop all that.
Holy shit. They can't get them all. It's a lot. Look at that. A lot of them are making contact. Wow, look how it's raining down.
I couldn't imagine what it'd be like.
Oh shit.
Being on the ground out there.
Yeah, they need to stay inside. They're landing. Ooh. That was a really strong little. There goes the interceptors to intercept more.
By the time you realize
They missed that one.
there's no escaping that. We're coming in so fast. It's insane.
That's fast. They hit that area over there. And these people are just standing out here like that. You know, if one of those rockets hit you guys are all dead. Like, they're just shooting. That's wild.
That close to him. And Donald Trump actually released a statement.
That's wild. That's crazy. All right, let's keep it moving. We got more to watch. This is coming from Jason A.
Oh my God.
Oh, you saw how it turned red? That's a hypersonic missile. That's a ballistic missile. A ballistic hypersonic.
No way! No way!
Opa, شو
Oh my God!
The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request.
Yeah, you better, motherfucker.
To prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians, putting British lives at risk, and hitting countries that have not been involved.
And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case.
Armada, like a whole bunch of missiles they shot at Israel. It's crazy. They need to make it big so we can see it.
For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer.
Oh my God. Whoa!
All right.
Yo! Yo!
That was that's a new
Yo!
weapon. That's not
Yo!
a that's a new weapon.
No way!
That was a hypersonic
No way!
weapon.
No way! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh, holy! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Yo! Oh! Oh my God! Oh my God! That's retarded! It actually hit right here. Oh my God.
I think when you look at what the Iranians were doing as far as their enrichment activities, they'd taken it well beyond what they claimed was for civilian and peaceful uses. They were close to getting it weaponized. And at that point, they are very dangerous because while they could have created a nuclear weapon, you also have to look at that gives them the opportunity to create a dirty bomb as well. So either way, they had to be stopped and they were unwilling to negotiate, which meant you had a clear and present danger, not only for the region, but the world as well.
The President Trump, says he offered them free uranium for a civilian nuclear program, which is what they contended that they were enriching uranium for. They turned him down on that. Doesn't that suggest that they wanted their uranium for military purposes?
Absolutely, yes. When you look at it, both the United States and at one time Russia said, we will help you develop a civilian nuclear program. And in every case, the Iranian regime turned those offers down and chose to continue with their enrichment activities, getting better centrifuges, more high-powered centrifuges, and some that were specifically designed to create weapons-grade material. So they were clearly interested in producing a bomb and not a peaceful reactor that would provide electricity.
You have said that the actions by Israel and the U.S. are long overdue here. What do you mean by that?
When you look at it, I go back to my very first deployment. I was in the embassy in Beirut in early April of 1983 when they blew the face off and killed 17 Americans. That was attributed to Hezbollah. I lost a Naval Academy classmate in the Beirut barracks bombing. Iran has been killing Americans for decades. And essentially, we've had administration after administration failed to address the threat that they represented, and it continued to metastasize and grow throughout the Middle East and the world. President Trump today has taken the decisive steps necessary to eliminate not only the threat from the regime, but create the conditions for the Iranian people to step up and take over their government and once again have a peaceful Middle East.
Moments ago, President Trump posted a new video on Truth Social delivering an update on Operation Epic Fury. Let's listen in.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons that would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others.
Yeah, we shouldn't let it happen to us. Fuck that. All right, let's go ahead and make myself a little big here. That was a good upload. Really, really good one. All right. Still got more because this is that's the dominating news.
Moments ago, President Trump posted a new video on True Social delivering an update on Operation Epic Fury. Let's listen in.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons, would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America," or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
All right, let's keep it moving.
We don't often go to Iraq at the moment, but here we are. So we've been running these pictures of protests that are taking place in the green zone in Baghdad. Now, this is usually quite a heavily fortified area, and there have been these flashes going off, some explosions of some kind. I'm just not sure exactly what they are, whether they're smoke bombs or anything like that. But there have been some fires set off there. Now, according to some local reports, there have been crowds who are throwing stones as these protests take place in the green zone and in particular outside the US embassy. So again, according to local reports, Iraqi security has been using tear gas and stun grenades to try and disperse these crowds, but those attempts have been unsuccessful so far because the people remain. So, I mean, what it's all about, I mean, is likely to be, given what we've just heard, pro-Khamenei protesters or pro-Iranian regime former Iranian regime protesters who've come down to the US embassy to let their voices be heard. What they were going to do, I'm not sure, but gee, yeah, you can see that those explosions going off. Should we just listen in for a moment? Okay, so while that continues, plenty of action there in Baghdad at the green zone. Usually, as I said, I have been there before actually, but it is usually heavily fortified and had been particularly post 2003. But according to Reuters and The Guardian, as well as the AP, there has been a mourning period which is ongoing for Khamenei. In Iraq, it's been declared for 3 days. There are reports of PMF militia activity in areas such as Diyala, and there is a broader retaliation that is growing around the region. But yeah, look at those protests there. It's pro-Khamenei protesters who have gone down to that green zone with a particular focus on the US embassy, and the Iraqi security forces are trying to quell that. But we'll keep watching that to see how they go.
Yeah, makes you wonder. Let's keep it moving.
Joining us live this morning is our US analyst, Michael Ware, for his take on all of this. So what do you make of Epic Fury so far, Michael?
Well, it's been a stunning operation militarily, without question. And this is just the United States and its partner Israel pulling off all of this. I mean, they even had bombers coming from the Midwest here in the United States that flew for 18 hours to drop 2,000-pounders, 2,000-pound bombs. So militarily, this is just breathtaking. And we know that they've been trying to cut the head off the snake. They assassinated the supreme leader. That's stunning. They killed the chief of command, the Revolutionary Guard Corps. The list of senior commanders and people who've been killed is quite striking. Now, what we're hearing from President Trump is that the new Iranian leaders, whoever they may be, want to talk. The government officials from Oman backed that up and said, yeah, Iran does want to talk. But on the other side of the coin, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps just put out a statement that said they're going to unleash the greatest offensive operation in Iran's history, and it's going to start any moment now, is what the statement said. So, look, it's clear that the Iranian military capabilities have been significantly degraded, but as all these ongoing attacks display, they're down, but they're not out. They can still strike at us.
Well, but that shows that when you've got an air-only campaign, doesn't it, that you can only do so much. I mean, might there have to be, I was talking to Mark Montgomery about this a little earlier, might there have to be some kind of boot-on-the-ground follow-up? Is that even possible in a country such as Iran?
Quite frankly, I don't see that happening. There's no appetite for it here, even amongst the war planners. Because, you can invade Iraq, a flat desert country with worn down military of about 500,000. We took them out in 3 weeks during the invasion. Iran's a totally different situation. It's got 90 million people, or 70, 80, 90 million people. It's mountainous terrain. You would have to send so many troops just to your bases. So, look, there's no appetite whatsoever for boots on the ground, but you're right. In many ways, you can't bomb your way to regime change. And it would look like the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards Corps, would be running the show right now. They're the first people that the leadership would turn to. And it's been going on for almost 48 hours now. The Americans and the Israelis are going to have a pause at a certain point, do their own battle damage assessment, and then start working through new lists. And I guarantee you those lists will include the replacements for the commanders who've already been killed.
Well, let's get to that. I mean, it's fascinating insight on the geography, by the way, too, Michael. You mentioned before cutting the head off the snake. We've seen regime changes before. Often the head grows back and they can be just as brutal as the previous one. Where do you think Iran goes now? Will it just be a continuation of old, or is there a legitimate chance for reset here?
Well, the problem for a major reset is that there's no opposition party there or movement there that can just stand up and take the place of the theocracy of the regime. It's not like we've got someone ready, willing, and able to step in. So that's why the regime will be lurching back towards what it knows, the Revolutionary Guard Corps. And we need someone or massive institutions inside Iran itself, like its army, not the Revolutionary Guard Corps, but its army to turn. We need something as significant as that. And it's clear that the Americans and the Israelis have been trying to promote that. They will have been doing outreach, shall we say, to certain members of the military regime and others that they think they might be able to turn.
Just makes you think. Let's keep it moving.
So given it's only it's air only, as you point out there, would there be a desire at all or a need to have boots on the ground, whether it's American boots or whether it's Israeli boots?
Well, I think no and no, right? I would not, both countries, I think, would take a hard pass on that.
Right.
I just don't, politically in both cases, and in the case for Israel, that's a stretch. They're a great home team army. They are not an away game army like the United States might be.
Understood. So what have you made of Iran's response so far? I mean, it's obviously still got a fair bit in its possession.
That's right. So look, we're pretty excited when our offensive stuff is 90% hits through, right? But when your defense is 90% effective, you're not so excited because that means 10% hit. And you're seeing some civilian infrastructure hit. There's reports of U.S. soldiers being killed, Israeli civilians being killed. So this isn't good, right? You really have to reduce Iran's ability to do that. So they're being slightly effective there. The other area I keep an eye on is the Straits of Hormuz. It's kind of a, cutting off their nose to spite their face, because the country most reliant on fossil fuel flow through the Straits is Iran. But if they cut it off, they hurt the world, and they hurt Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait and Qatar and Bahrain as well. So they may cut it off. They can do it with mines, and they can do it with missiles and drones. I think we've seen reports of some drone strikes that have not sunk ships, but have damaged them. We'll have to see if they press that as a regime objective.
Well, just further to that, I'm glad you brought it up, because Iran's foreign minister or its spokesperson has spoken to Al Jazeera this morning to say that the Strait of Hormuz is staying open. So are you pleased by that? I mean, does that surprise you, or do you think it might eventually be closed?
I think it is open. I mean, it's open. And from what I understand, the insurance companies are telling the ships stay inside or outside, right? Don't try to go through. So, look, I think they understand the existential nature of the Straits closing to their own economy. But you can't stop some troops from launching. And also, the two ships that were hit may have been debris. There's a lot of excuses for it, other than they weren't hit with like cruise missiles, because they would have sunk. But they were hit with something light or hit with debris. My point on this is it won't take much for the Joint War Council, which is an insurance adjusting group, to list the Straits of Hormuz, and then there'll be no flow through there.
Okay, yeah, well, that'll obviously affect prices too. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But Mark, you and I, we've spoken about China a number of times in the past. What do you think Xi Jinping is thinking right now? Does he make a move on Taiwan while the world is watching the Middle East?
And the short answer on Taiwan is no. The larger answer is his credibility as a partner. I mean, he stood by during the 12-day war and did nothing for Israel. I think we're about to watch him stand by again. If getting Venezuelan oil cut off was a minor perturbation for China, getting Iranian oil cut off, that's the vast majority of Iranian shipments are going to China. If that were to happen, that's a significant issue for China. So I think right now he's more in a observe what's going on and try to figure out how to keep that flow going. I suspect they would have transmitted to Iran, to the foreign ministry, please say the straits are open, right? To try to keep that flow going. And at some future date, we'll provide some logistics assistance to you. But I think right now, attack on Taiwan would be, I don't think they're ready for that in so many ways, not least of which he's decapitated his own military over the last 3 months in a way that might make it a little hard.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Let's bring in Fox News chief political anchor and special report anchor and executive editor Brett Baer. So great to see you this morning, Brett. Jennifer just reported on that story in the Washington Post about whether or not the Saudi Arabia was influential in sort of pushing this strike to begin with. But however true or untrue that story is, it's safe to say that that Iran has spectacularly miscalculated the reaction of their allies or not their allies, but their neighbors in the Middle East and how they would respond to all of this.
Oh, 100%. Good morning. I think that the Gulf Arab allies are allies, and you're talking about UAE, Saudi Arabia, you're talking about Qatar, Oman, even you can get to Kuwait. They have all been hit pretty hard with multiple strikes from Iran since this started. They were privately behind the effort, publicly putting out distancing statements, as they often do. But since the attacks, it has stiffened the spine of Gulf Arab allies. In fact, the UAE just put out that their air defenses dealt with 165 ballistic missiles, 2 cruise missiles, and 541 drones since the start of this operation. They've put most of those down, but some of them, as we've seen, have hit civilian areas, including a hotel. Well, that has given the GCC, the Gulf states, really this backbone to stand firm and say an attack of one of us is an attack on all of us, and they're standing with the U.S. and Israel.
I love having you on, Brett, because we've been talking all morning with Trey and with Jennifer, sort of getting the facts on the ground, but having you on gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the politics around this, because as you know, many Democrats opposing this war, Republicans a little divided, actually. A lot of young people opposed to this war. I want to ask you first, how important is it that President Trump keep to this parameter that he gave in his statement that this will last a few weeks, keeping it short? How important is that to him politically, especially ahead of the midterms? But also, could there be a case to be made for those who are war weary, like myself, to say, look, maybe if we accomplish this and we get rid of this threat that's been causing a lot of problems in the Middle East, maybe this is our chance to finally, once and for all, complete that pivot to our own hemisphere and not have to worry so much about what's going in the Middle East. If that's the case, politically, that could be a good case to be made, correct?
Yes, definitely. It's a great framing. I think if you look at this regime, it has been a horrific regime for decades. And that's part of the message the president delivered in that 8-minute address when he started these strikes. They've had and done really horrific things to Americans, to the Middle East, to the world for a long, long time. I spoke to the president briefly yesterday, and he feels at this point things are going good, knows that there are bumps in the road potentially, but has off-ramps along the way and is in the back of his mind thinking about the scope of this. Can't put a day on it, but feels like it's heading in the right direction. It takes a big moment to make the decision that he made.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the behind the scenes of how those negotiations were falling apart and how the Iranians were doing exactly what they do all the time, which is say one thing and do another, enrich uranium and stockpile it someplace that they say it's for medical, but they're stockpiling it so that they can really enrich it very quickly and get their ballistic missiles back up and running very fast. From the last time Israel and the U.S. took it out in June. Let me just say one thing about the decapitation strike. It was pretty amazing. Jennifer rightly points out some of that intel, and I'm hearing as well that U.S. intelligence had a lot to do with the Ayatollah's whereabouts, the supreme leader's whereabouts. But the fact that Israel went after these 3 different sites, one of the sites, we're told by a senior Israeli official, was meeting to talk about how to put down protests more effectively. Kind of ironic that that was that meeting. And then the main meeting was the supreme leader and his about 40 cohorts at which Israel just pummeled. And the entire operation moved up into daylight because of the real-time intelligence that had this decapitation strike that moved into place.
Yeah, and clearly, Brad, intelligence of this nature does not come without human intelligence, likely meaning Mossad on the ground. Let me bring you back, if I can, though, because I think you and Charlie were talking about a really significant regional development in all of this, because you were talking about the Gulf states and whether or not Iran really grossly miscalculated by striking our Gulf state allies. 66 missiles hit Qatar, 45 on Bahrain. And earlier in the show, our own Jack Keane, General Jack Keane, really says not only are they responding, that they may actually get into the fight. Listen here to what General Keane said. I want to get your reaction.
They have expanded into the Gulf states, and you can see that taking place. The Gulf states are adequately defending themselves. 3 of them are preparing for combat offensive operations. One has already started, and 2 others are about to get going. This backfired on the Iranians. They thought that this would create an international uproar. The war is being expanded. It's now a regional war. And as such, pressure being put on the United States and Israelis to bring this to a halt. The Gulf states are responding. They're adequately defending themselves, but they are frustrated with the Iranians. They publicly was supporting the Iranians and resisting the strike. Hopefully, they've learned a big lesson here from the Iranians.
I don't think, Brett, anyone foresaw Gulf states, as you heard from General Keane there, if that is indeed true, that at least one Gulf state has already got into the fight, 3 others with plans to do so. That's quite significant.
Yeah, and I've talked to senior diplomats overseas that confirm that. They're really united. They're really activated. In fact, I talked to a senior diplomat up in the United Nations saying that Bahrain, who's usually a quiet member of the GCC, is very active. So is UAE, Saudi Arabia. They're all united because of what they saw in response from Iran. So you're right. It's a horrible miscalculation by Iran, and it enables it to not just be Iran versus the Zionists and the U.S., it is their Arab neighbors that are a part of this, saying this regime has made the wrong calculation for years.
You know, I'm often reminded, and especially the last 24, 48 hours, of a pretty extraordinary interview that you did with MBS in the summer before the October 7th attacks, in which he expressed to you the interest of Saudi Arabia to normalize relations and actually, as I think President Trump has said, come out of the chaos and find commerce. There's so much more that's going on behind the scenes right now along those lines that is reshaping the Middle East as the way we have all known it for our entire lives, as being this unstable place where there's always a war going on. Do you see that when you kind of put it in that larger perspective? Obviously, things got derailed by October 7th, but do you see those things coming back into focus and Saudi Arabia and these other countries saying, you know what, we're going to normalize relations and actually make money here?
Yeah, Charlie, it's a great question. That interview was at the end of September 2023 with the Crown Prince, MBS, in which he said, we're getting closer every day to normalization. And, the camera turned off and essentially he said, no, really, we really are. And the next day, I did an interview with the Israeli Prime Minister after he saw the Crown Prince's interview on the sidelines of the UN, at which the Israeli Prime Minister said, we are getting closer every day. And in the words of a smart man in the Middle East, this could change the face of the Middle East. That was 7 days before October 7th. October 7th changed everything. The Hamas attack in Israel, it changed the entire dynamic. This right now potentially could change everything even further. And to your point, there is this wish and hunger to continue to do this normalization effort. And just as we're looking at the iceberg above the water, there's a giant iceberg below the water of negotiations that have been going on, particularly with the Trump administration, from the first to the second.
Yeah, there's no question about it. This is a consequential time. And if this is contained and taken care of, as President Trump indicated in that speech, Brett, I think we're looking at the most consequential presidency in our lifetime, without a question. This is absolutely monumentous. Brett Baer, so great having you on this morning.
Thanks,
Thank
Brett.
you.
Thank you, Brett.
You bet.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
Keep it moving.
Heavy bombing continues in Iran as the U.S. and Israel rain down on the Iranian regime. President Trump's calling it a defensive move against imminent nuclear threats. Iranian officials say hundreds have died as a result of the strikes, including their supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. His death marks the second opportunity for a supreme leader change since 1989. But with no clear successor, the Islamic Republic now faces the crisis of a void in its top authority, and international security experts are skeptical whether a positive government change will be the outcome.
Iran's continued pursuit of advanced missile capabilities, coupled with its refusal to abandon nuclear ambitions despite diplomatic opportunities, presents a grave and mounting danger.
And with top figures of the Iranian regime now eliminated, the joint U.S. and Israel attack is being described as one of the most lethal operations conducted in modern warfare history. Threat's not over, though. Iran's already retaliated by firing missiles and drones toward Israel and U.S. military bases in the region. This is a look here at damage in Tel Aviv after a ballistic missile hit residential block last night. Reports say at least one woman was killed and about 27 others injured. Covered parking lots became temporary shelters for everyone as people tried to sleep or rest on makeshift beds or anything that served as available space. At least 9 people are dead after clashes outside the U.S. consulate in Pakistan. Hundreds of protesters stormed the consulate and clashed with police in Karachi. Video shows what appears to be tear gas being thrown into the crowds this morning. Police say at least 8 others were wounded, and they say the protesters have been dispersed. The situation now under control. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are rushing to reassert congressional authority after yesterday's strikes against Iran. The attacks were launched without a formal declaration of war from Congress, which holds the constitutional power to declare war. White House officials say top leaders from both parties and the intelligence committees were notified shortly before the strikes began. Tomorrow, lawmakers return to Washington, where there is sure to be debate about whether President Trump misused his war powers by launching the strikes without Congress signing off. And we could soon be seeing some direct effects on consumers from this attack on Iran, as oil prices and inflation may soon go up. Iran could restrict oil tanker navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, but it's a key passageway. It carries 20% of the world's oil supply for several producing nations. European Union naval officials say vessels are now receiving radio warnings from Iran's Revolutionary Guard not to travel the strait. Brent crude oil, which serves as the primary pricing standard for more than 2/3 of the world's internationally traded crude oil, was at $73 a barrel on Friday, but could spike when markets open tomorrow. There's a lot to cover here. Stay with Fox 10 for continuing coverage of these strikes.
All right. Let's keep it moving. We got some more here. It's scary. Imagine being there and you hear all this cling, 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 cling. Like, what the fuck? Like that. That creeped me out. Look at the missiles. I think this is the interceptors. And this is the Israeli air defense system intercepting Iranian missiles fired at Jerusalem. They don't care. They're going after everybody. Jerusalem. Don't be surprised if a couple of missiles hit Gaza. Iran, this is an order from the Ayatollah. If I am dead, if you do not hear from me within the 3 days, all hell break loose. Attack all countries, attack all brothers, attack the world. You know, it's the Ayatollah. And his military is fulfilling his wishes. That's how it's going to be. So scary, man. Look at that. That's not good. There's another one. Oh, now we got intercepted. Wow. Let's keep it moving. Wow. Let's keep it moving.
As all of this is unfolding, that knowledge that you have about Hezbollah helps to paint a better picture as to why we're watching some of this focus now shift to that group as well. I do want to put this up, though, some reporting that we just have into our newsroom from Trey Yanks with Fox, saying 2 big explosions just happened over Tel Aviv. And we also have this update as well, saying that Iranian missiles are now targeting areas in northern Israel. I have to ask you, as we're looking at this vantage point and a few others that we have here in our newsroom, how is Israel able to protect itself in a situation like this? We've been watching some of what we've seen with the Iron Dome. Of course, it's been fascinating to see some of these missiles being intercepted over the skyline. But truly, in a moment like this is something Israel has been prepared for, I'm sure, for several decades.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, Israel had to cope for more than a decade with thousands of Hezbollah and Hamas missiles entering its territory and targeting its civilian centers. And with the technological know-how that and the entrepreneurial spirit that I think defines Israel, they were able to develop this Iron Dome technology, which the US is now working on a version of that to defend our homeland. But the Israelis were able to deploy the Iron Dome very effectively. It has a very high rate of interception success. So most of these projectiles coming through get knocked out of the sky before they're able to do any damage. But I don't think the Iron Dome or any missile shield is infallible. There will always be cracks, and you're seeing that now. And I think the Iranians are trying to exploit those cracks and get as many missiles as they can into Israel. They launched 200 yesterday. The sense I'm getting today is that there will have been even more. And I think they want to make sure that if Israel is pursuing this project of regime change, then the Iranians want to ensure that the Israeli people suffer as much as possible because of that.
And we're still looking at some of these live vantage points, watching the aftermath. And we know it's not only happening there in Israel. The United Arab Emirates also said that they're closing their embassy in Iran. They announced that withdrawal of its diplomatic mission after strikes from the Islamic Republic hit the country. This announcement also comes from the Gulf country's foreign minister, as Iranian retaliatory attacks have been targeting U.S. bases there in the Middle East and have also hit the Dubai airport and other civilian buildings, forcing the closure of the airspace and also disrupting daily life for so many that are affected by all of this. And so, Ben, as we're continuing to watch this unfold, I want to ask you about the announcement that was also made earlier today by CENTCOM, saying that 3 U.S. soldiers had lost their life in some of these attacks that have been playing out there in the Middle East. 5 others were injured. That does remind you kind of the sobering response of what the effects are of war and some of these strikes in the Middle East.
Yeah, and I would say that was one of the most heartbreaking developments of today is the death of 3 U.S. servicemen and the wounding of 5 more. I'm still waiting to see details from CENTCOM as to exactly how and where that occurred. But it's a reminder that, in wartime situations, even if you're not actually directly in the theater of war, death and injury are a risk. I think that what makes this operation very different from the operations in Iraq and Afghanistan is that there is no commitment to put boots on the ground. So there will be no ground warfare, no IED attacks of the sort that we saw in Afghanistan and Iraq that wounded and injured, many hundreds of our servicemen and women. But yeah, this is absolutely not risk-free. But I think the U.S. military commanders, certainly one of their top priorities is going to be minimizing the exposure of U.S. servicemen and women to lethal situations like this one.
I do want to ask you also about some of the allies there that not only the U.S. has in that region, but we did hear from the French President Emmanuel Macron saying today that the conflict has now prompted France to reinforce its military posture and its defensive support for its allies there in the Middle East. He didn't elaborate at that point, but he did note that a drone hit a hangar today at a French naval base, saying that France needs to, quote, be able to adapt our posture to the evolution of the last few hours. I think this also
hit a French naval base
effects. We keep talking about the main 3 nations that are involved in this: the United States, Iran, and Israel. But this is also having far-reaching effects
going to be World War III?
International countries as well.
Absolutely. And I think, you've seen, Christina, a very interesting shift in European countries over the last 24 hours. Right up until the eve of this operation,
Who likes eating
they
cookie
were very
crisp dry?
reticent about giving their
Let me know in the
blessing
chat.
What
do you like to eat?
Yesterday,
What type of cereal do you like to eat
many
dry?
channels that broadcast the British Prime Minister,
I love
Keir
cookie crisp dry.
talking about the need to prevent escalation and to get to a peaceful solution as quickly as possible. But the UK is also now deploying the Royal Air Force in the region. And I think, in some ways, because of the successes so far in this operation inside Iran, decimating the leadership.
It's good practice for them. They need to go over there.
Intelligence.
This is really, really good practice for them.
Targeting as well the headquarters of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. I think
you don't know what you got if you don't fucking use it.
No choice but to follow
UK,
now events on the ground
France,
and adjust
Spain,
their positions
Portugal.
accordingly. So I think it's encouraging.
Fuck, man, do we have to call you out by fucking country?
And I think again, Europeans who are scared of
oh my God, Rick is playing Carmen Sandiego again. I know, right? I used to love that show too.
That could actually hit European territory.
In the world is
Iran has
Carmen
carried out
Sandiego.
several terrorist attacks in European countries, Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands. So there's no love lost between them. And I think, again, Europe may well now evolve to, formally endorsing regime change as a position rather than seeking to reform the regime from within.
And so we're watching this just coming down from Reuters saying that the U.S. military's Central Command says over 1,000 Iranian targets have been struck in this ongoing operation. It's interesting to see. I'm sure we'll continue to find out more information about the specifics as the days and weeks go on.
1,000
But I also want to
is
take
a
it
little
back
low.
here stateside. I'm going to put up this live
I want
vantage
to
point
see
that we have there
100,000.
in Austin, Texas. Right now, we do know that the FBI is also investigating right now a link between a mass shooting that happened in the overnight hours in Austin, Texas, and some of the links to the backlash from these strikes that have been happening here, there in the Middle East. It's interesting to see this connection. Is this something that maybe we could have predicted, that there might be folks stepping out to make their own impact or have their own political opinion by carrying out terror events in other locations?
Absolutely predictable, because we've seen it before. There are several US-based individuals, including President Trump himself, who have been targeted, and there's credible intelligence to show this, and even trials of some of the ostensible perpetrators have taken place. So Iran does have sleeper cells in North America, in the United States, in North America more generally, in Europe, even in Australia, which, because of that, designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization last year. So Iran's terror tentacles, if you like, extend across the globe. And there is a very real risk that they will try to activate sleeper cells. I think we also have to be vigilant in terms of the possibility of attacks on our infrastructure and on cyber attacks. Iran has proven itself over the years to be pretty adept at using the internet as a weapon. And I think we should remember as well that Iran is closely aligned with both China and Russia. And while I don't see either China or Russia rushing to aid Iran militarily, I do think it's eminently conceivable that Russia and China, that also have a lot of experience in mounting cyber warfare and in mounting very dangerous disinformation campaigns, will come to the assistance of the Iranians on that score. So I think vigilance at local level, police forces especially, is absolutely warranted in this situation.
Ben, your expertise and sort of your breakdown of this situation has been so valuable. I appreciate you for continuing to be with us here on Live Now from Fox. I do want to ask you one last question. We're taking this live look there at Mar-a-Lago. We do know that it was reported that President Trump was there at Mar-a-Lago monitoring all of this as it unfolded there, the strikes, the conversations with several world leaders, all taking place here. But I will say, other than an 8-minute video that was released an hour or so after those attacks, we haven't heard from the president yet. When he does finally speak, what do you think will be the center core of his message?
Well, far be it from me to second guess President Trump. A very, very difficult thing to do. I think from what I have heard of him in the last 24 hours, it's clear that he's playing his cards very close to his chest. He gave an interview last night where he talked about he sort of teased by saying, I know who's in charge in Iran now, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. He also said that he thought there were some good candidates that could take over the leadership of Iran, but it wasn't clear, was he talking about figures from within the regime, or was he talking about figures from the opposition, like Reza Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah of Iran. So I think Trump now is juggling with, do I see regime change through, or do I pull back now and try and negotiate with a more junior thug in that regime? The example of Venezuela is quite instructive here. You might remember, it seems like ancient history now, but just last month, the US unseated the Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, but left the underlying regime intact and is now negotiating with that regime. So it may be that President Trump is tempted to do something similar here in Iran. I hope he doesn't, because that's a recipe for a Groundhog Day scenario. If we carry on doing business with this regime, if we allow this regime, which is now on life support, if we allow it to survive, I think Christina, we're going to be having this conversation a year from now, 2 years from now.
And as you said, it is difficult to get into the mind of the president. We have to just wait and see until he speaks for himself. But Ben, as always, your insight is so helpful for us as we're watching all this unfold in real time. No true full answers yet, but just something we have to pay attention to. Thank you so much for joining us once again here on Live Now.
Good to be with you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. I gotta go get my delivery, so I'm gonna put you guys to watch something good while I go get my delivery. Let's go with little Benny. Let's go to Benny. And let me just set it up. And here we go. Oh, we gotta put some sound.
That was our own boat.
This is tough to watch, man. A new explosion at the U.S. military base in Erbil, Iraq. This is a massive explosion. Look at that. Got the military warning sirens there. This is inside of the green zone in Iraq. Iraq has been now overrun entirely by protesters, as has consulates in Pakistan. These are the laws of unintended consequences. In Pakistan, they are having to shoot at least 32 people were shot dead by Marines who stormed the consulates there. Now bulldozers are being used to attempt to storm in Baghdad this morning. The scenes are absolute chaos. So they're commandeering bulldozers and trying to break in. You can see their explosions in the background as this is happening. Remember when we spent 10,000 American lives on Iraq? For what exactly? To what end? So that we can be attacked in their capital city? You remember when we thought they'd greet us as liberators? How many times you got to make the same dumb mistake, man? Dude, look at this. Again, you can see the anti-disbursement munitions that are being fired. You can see the bulldozer being driven toward the entry, totally overrun green zone in Iraq. Again, in Pakistan as well, multiple embassies set ablaze. 18 dead. I'm seeing 32 dead. And now U.S. sanctioned oil tanker hit off Oman coast. So now oil tankers are completely ablaze. This has the potential to, of course, be an oil spill and could potentially have some really, of course, terrible ramifications. A flagged oil tanker under U.S. sanctions was hit on Sunday off Oman's peninsula, injuring 4 of the people. The country's maritime security center said, without specifying what hit the vessel. The attack followed earlier drone strikes elsewhere in the Gulf territory, commercial port, and Arabian Sea. The incidents mark the first time targets near Oman have been hit following the wave of retaliatory strikes by Tehran on Gulf states after the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran plunged the region into a new war. 20-person crew of the Skylight tanker was evacuated after the attack, which occurred 5 nautical miles north of the port, the strategic Straits of Hormuz. The Oman Maritime Security Center said on X. Initial information indicates injuries and varying severity of the crew, composed of 15 Indian and 5 Iranian citizens. Goodness. They attacked their own ship. Skylight's registered owner is Sea Force Inc., managed by Red Sea Ship Management. Both could not be reached immediately. U.S. Treasury in December sanctioned the Red Sea Ship Management, along with other vessels, accusing the management company of its owners of operating a shadow fleet to transport Iranian petroleum. So the Iranians shot their own ship. Okay. Iranians attack oil tanker named Skylight near the Strait of Hormuz. You can see here, obviously, the ship is ablaze, clearly going to be needing some major servicing. and assistance. Is that even possible here? Also, could this lead to a massive oil leak? It's crazy. 20 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. Today, the number is 0 because Iran mined the water, not because the tanker was hit, because Lloyd's of London picked up the phone. War risk underwriters began canceling policies in the Straits after Operation Epic Fury launched. The Financial Times confirmed premiums surging 50%. Baseline war risk sits at 0.02% of whole value. $100 million tanker, $250,000 per voyage. Peak escalation rates, $1 million per transit. Vessels linked to American or Israeli interests are becoming uninsurable entirely. No price, no policy, no passage. So you can see here, obviously, the insane amount of oil traffic that passes through this strait. This is Iran right here. These are the other Gulf states that are allied with America. This morning I wrote that you do not need to close the strait. You just need to make it uninsurable. It took 6 hours. A flagged oil tanker named Skylight was attacked 5 nautical miles off their port. And you can see it right here, burning. And then, what are you going to do? Casualties have been reported after oil tanker named Skylight that is sanctioned and allegedly an Iranian oil tanker operating in a shadow capacity. Dozens of ships are currently clustered around the strait, unable to cross. Iran may shut down the strait completely. 4 soldiers wounded. Goodness. So you can see here where the tanker was and how it was hit. And now it's burning, just sitting there burning. There's a photo. Attacked by Iran, 20 crew members evacuated, 4 injured. There were Iranians on board. Goodness. So we'll see what happens next. I mean, hopefully this doesn't mean some type of catastrophic, oil spill, but these kind of things are spilling over into our country. Obviously, there was a terrorist attack in Texas yesterday from an Islamic jihadist. Just call it what it is. He had a sweatshirt on that said, I'm serving Allah. He attacks and kills Americans in Texas. Obviously, 3 Americans are dead after multiple attacks yesterday by Iran on military bases. As confirmed, maybe more. Now Tehran is getting absolutely terrorized, whatever you want to call it, just bombed to ashes. But Iran attacks U.S. aircraft carrier. Trump said no. Trump says no, that's not the case. We are the ones doing the attacking. Trump saying that they've sunk effectively all of the Iranian fleet. U.S. air bases, though, are hit in Qatar. Obviously, you can see that there are embassies under attack. So the law of unintended consequences here, man. Pray for stabilization. Pray for peace. That's why we advocate so firmly for America First policies on this program. This is the question for the administration. Can you convince and sell to the American people that this is an America First policy? That is the greatest question. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe for updates. See ya.
All right, that was a good one from Benny. And watch a couple of short ones here. We gotta resize it for a second here, but watch. Because these are people that are celebrating.
Left-wing outlets across the globe have been forced to break from their usual Trump bashing to report the news that Iranians are celebrating in the streets, dancing, singing, and thanking President Trump for ending the life of dictator Ayatollah Khamenei.
The largest Iranian populations outside of the Middle East. You see the gathering there behind her. Julia, how is the Iranian community responding?
Well, this gathering has only grown, Jessica, over the past few hours, since we've gotten here. It has amassed a large number of people, and the celebration is striking.
And the reporters over at CBS also expressed the sentiment of gratitude for President Trump.
The Iranian people, what are you hearing from them tonight? We know they're celebrating. What's the feeling?
It's a
It's an incredible dissonance that they had to choose war over a regime, but they were willing to do it. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you, America. It's not death to America after they killed the leader. The Americans and the Israelis did it. It's not death to Israel and death to America. It's thank you. It's a new day dawning, but very early days. Very, very early days. So we'll have to see what comes. But it's the Iranian people that have been telling me over and over and over again, we want this. We're not regimists. We're not Islamic. I don't even say, oh my God, to my Iranian friends because they don't want God to be any part of this.
But in Austin, it seems a CBS reporter went rogue and covered a celebration despite being told not to.
What's that mean? It means they don't want us to focus on this. Well, I am.
But while some left-wing media outlets took the high road and reported the facts, MSN Now's Rachel Maddow continued her passive aggression towards the Trump administration.
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Maddow. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you are joining MS Now's ongoing coverage of the United States having apparently started a war with Iran for some reason. Your guess, your personal guess, sitting at home watching me right now, your personal guess is as good as any as to why the president of the United States has just started this war.
Reuters was also blasted for showing one side of the Iranian reaction, saying pro-government demonstrators marched in Tehran against US-Israel strikes, chanting death to Israel as the attack deepened the Middle East conflict and dimmed hopes for diplomacy over Iran's nuclear dispute. Online commentators criticized the news outlet, with this person saying, "What is up with Reuters running propaganda for the Iranian regime?" But despite some corners of the media taking an anti-American narrative, social media is allowing the people of Iran to speak directly to the world.
Iranian here, with a message for every single American who voted for President Trump. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. God bless President Trump. God bless the US military, and God bless America. We can't wait until Iran is free and we can welcome you back to our country with open arms and be the allies that we used to be before the Islamic regime took over our country in 1979.
Wow.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
Wow. It's the truth. You only get one-sided fucking bullshit news. That's why the news agency sucks here in America. All right, this is going to be the last video of the night because I've got to get going. But it was a good day, good reporting, good news. Hope everyone had a good night and a good weekend. And looking forward to the week. Make sure you put gas. I told you guys to put gas. Remember I told you guys to put gas? I hope you guys listened to me from the past previous shows because the gas prices are going to go up. So if you can put it now, do it because prices are going to change. All right, and here we go to the last video of the night.
Correspondent Leah Lando, she is live in Times Square where those crowds were gathering today, Leah.
Yes, Kelly, dozens of people gathered for several hours. They were dancing, they were singing, and they were eager to tell me why they're so grateful. I spoke with two people who grew up in Iran and now live here, and here's what they had to say.
So we got the great news yesterday that Ayatollah Khamenei is dead and he's gone. It was the best news that all Iranian could ever get. People in Iran were happy. We're dancing in the street, and we are here to support the people of Iran. The 40,000 plus people that got killed in 2 days in a very short amount of time. We are here to be their voice, and we are here to say thank you to President Trump, thank you to Bibi Netanyahu, and whoever support people of Iran. President Trump stayed true to his word that help is on the way, and help came yesterday. And in the first day, they got Ali Khamenei out. So we're so happy for that. people of Iran are happy now.
And you were telling me just horrible stories about things that you have endured. Explain to people who aren't aware what it's like over there and why you say this had to happen.
People doesn't even have basic freedoms that like we are enjoying it in this country. They don't have freedom of speech. Even like the woman can just choose what they want to wear. They're forced to wear hijabs, and if they don't, you can get killed, tortured. So basic human right that the people are enjoying here, it's been people of Iran were like didn't have it for last 47 years.
It's hard for so many of us to imagine. And Reza, you were telling me that growing up in Iran, you would go to school and they would teach you what?
Yeah, every morning you go to a school. Before you learn about peace, about love, about anything good in the life, they tell you, they force you to say death to America, death to Israel. And when I came here to this country, I was like, why do I have to say that? Why people in Iran they have to say that? Is a big thing that people don't know about it in America, that the regime wants to kill America. The regime wants to death to America every single day. Is this whatever the military action is, that it's not only about the Iranians, it's about the future of your kids as American, your kids, and then your grandchildren. They will be safe when the regime take down.
You still have family there, and we're hearing people over here debating whether this will make a difference to the regime. What do you say to that?
My mom actually called me and she said, listen, we know that is going to be a military action from the U.S. to Iran, but we are happy. We are happy because it's going to be peace. It's going to be peace to the America. It's going to be peace to the Middle East, the whole world.
To those who can't imagine just what you have been through being over there, I mean, you live here now, but what do you want Americans to know about your life in Iran?
We want Americans to know that we could have done it. We wanted the regime change for the last 47 years. There was different uprising, and like the last couple of years, the last 2 years ago, we Mahsa Amini uprising. So it's been continuously, we were like fighting with this regime. We wanted them out, but we could have done it empty-handed. The only solution to that is intervention, and they did it, and we thank you them.
So while there was that celebration here in Times Square in New York City today, there are more protests planned for tomorrow. The People's Forum, one of the groups calling for a national day of protest, and one of those protests expected to happen right up at Columbus Circle. Kelly, just so many
protests. People are protesting. When protest, the people are happy. The Iranian people are happy. These Americans are so stupid. These Democrats.
Well, you can certainly imagine why.
You can see they're falling for the trap again.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app.
Falling for the trap again. These demo rats, the demon rats, are falling for the trap. They don't understand what they can't read the room anymore because they have people like brainwashing them to say what they have to say, and they can't speak for themselves. Like, you see the Iranian people partying and happy and joy and, oh my God, we love President Trump and this and that. And then you have the Democrats with their signs, hands off Iran, hands off Iran now. I can't. I'm going to go continue to have my, enjoy the rest of my Sunday night. I got to wake up early. I got doctor's appointments to catch up. Very busy week for me next week. So with that said, have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side. I'll be back on here tomorrow. Regular time, probably 7:37-ish. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.